Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 178. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Friday, July the 3rd, from poolside at the James Strong Show compound in western St. Charles County. This is outside pandemic poolside podcast number 3, and these are working out very well. I said when these all began that I'm not going to have people in studio until everybody is safe. I've been true to my word. However, we've had guests in studio. This is podcast number 3, and I have guests number 3 and 4. They're repeaters. They're veterans to the James Strong Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Schaper and Eugene Vale. How are you folks?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Yourself?
We're here. We're COVID-free.
I'm glad that you are. And the reason I wanted to have you two on, this whole pandemic, the coronavirus, the COVID-19, and tribalism. I had the Gray Falcon on last Thursday, and we talked about tribalism and how nobody can agree to disagree anymore. It's either my way or the highway. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm great, you suck. And we can't have a discussion about anything. You both have my utmost respect. You're learned people. You study the facts. You separate fact from opinion, and you form your opinions based in fact. To me, if you form an opinion based in fact, it's hard to refute. You can refute it, you can discuss it, but if you base it in fact, it's hard to refute. Eugene, you've published on your Facebook page countless graphs about the coronavirus, the pandemic, the COVID-19 statistics, not only locally, but regionally and globally. And, I mean, how many hours do you think you've put into this?
Oh, it kind of depends. To just generate what I do daily is probably a single hour, depending on if people are at the agencies actually update their websites on time. I'm getting my data from the World Health Organization, Johns Hopkins, the CDC, the Missouri Health and Senior Services, and the health departments of Franklin County, St. Louis County, and the city of St. Louis. And that all goes relatively quickly, except on those days when instead of at 2 o'clock, it doesn't get updated until around 8 p.m.
Sure. And I think what I've seen is that sometimes the figures will be high, sometimes they'll be low, perhaps because they're not reporting everything exactly on that day.
It's gotten a little, it looks a little sloppier, but probably they're being a little bit more careful. A few weeks back, I was seeing on my feed from other sources, Missouri just set a new record for the all-time high. It's 400 and something and d. And then I'd go look at the data and the next morning and it wasn't there.
So where were they getting this information?
What was happening was they were putting out estimates before they got everything all summed together, and I think they were paying for that because their estimates were turning out to be high. Now we've got the reverse situation. They're posting what they've got, which is low because all the data isn't in yet, and it gets revised upwards.
Well, for some reason, the government tends to do that. And I first noticed that years ago when they started reporting on the economy and the employment figures. And they would say, the employment figures are here. Aren't they wonderful? The economy is here. Aren't they wonderful? Oh, and then, 2 months ago, we had to revise those numbers up or down. And so they always put out the Pollyanna good news numbers, and then 2 months later revise them on the back page to not quite so great.
Yeah, and what at least the Missouri side got caught with was they were doing the opposite. They were essentially putting out the worst case and then revising down, but the news media was jumping on that worst case, and they were catching all kinds of grief. and the numbers turned out not to be right. They turned out to be much lower. Of course, since then, now we've been pushing. Oh, did we push 500? We got damn close. I'm sorry, we got close. Actually, yes. There was one day that came within spitting distance anyway of 500 new cases.
New cases versus hospitalizations versus deaths. Right. To me, they're three separate figures. You would think that new cases would be going up because the number of people tested are going up. Correct?
It all depends on various dynamics. Yes, the more you test, the more the numbers are going to go up. But if you were doing the right things, the actual number of infections should be going down, so it would be just wonderful if the number of new cases was holding steady with all this increased testing. Basically, Joe just had a medical procedure, and she was kind of worried what the test results were. They came back good. Hooray.
Wonderful.
But one of the things I kept telling her was, knowledge is power. If you don't do the test, what you don't know can get you.
That's exactly true.
And this is the case with the coronavirus. The more we test and know, the more we're in a position to try to do something.
Yeah, one of the things, the thing I had done was something that involved a little bit of non-invasive surgery, but going to the hospital, which they're now doing things like that. Was a test that wasn't just, lick your finger and stick it in the air. But one of the things they're doing, anyone who comes in for a procedure like that is automatically COVID tested. Has no symptoms, no nothing, it's just you're COVID tested.
Oh, but that's smart, right? Because you don't want to bring an infected person into the hospital with sick people.
Right. And basically going over for this 2 days before the actual procedure, walked into the patients first over in Washington, got shot with the thermometer immediately. I had a mask on because Eugene and I are both wearing masks. Anybody who didn't have a mask or wouldn't put one on was turned away. And the same thing would be true of the going to the going to actually go have a procedure of some sort. But that in that case, so I've been tested. It tested negative, and I had to go through what I went through. But the thing is, you've got all of those people being tested at this point, and that would pick up more asymptomatic people who still, have the virus.
You use the term asymptomatic, and that's a term that really, maybe that's the word of the year. We never really used it that much, okay? I'm like you. I'm a mask wearer, and the reason I wear a mask is it a hassle? Sure. Is it a pain? Yeah. But every figure that I look at by anybody who has any type of authority, or the smart people, let's just say, they all say, look, just wear the dopey mask because it's not going to help you so much, but it's going to help the other person.
I don't have the exact reference in front of me, but I like to use this one. I forget the name of the rabbi, but it's called the spoon parable. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not. Please share.
Okay. This man once asked God to show him the difference between heaven and hell. And so God takes him and he shows him this room. And there are all these people sitting around a table with this big, delicious pot of stew in the middle of it. But the spoons all have handles that are 4 feet long. And you can't grab them anywhere but at the end of the handle. It's too hot. You burn your hand. You got to let go. They're all wasting away and hungry and griping and unhappy and whatever. And then God takes them to the next room. All these people have 4-foot spoons. There's this big pot of stew in the middle of the table, and they're all happy and having a wonderful time and well fed. And the man asks, what's the difference? And the people in the room say, well, here we feed each other.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with the masks. If you say, well, it doesn't help me, I'm not going to wear it, nobody wears a mask, everybody suffers. But if you say, I care about other people, and I'm going to wear my mask, and everybody wears a mask, everybody benefits.
I'm of the same thought, okay? When a doctor operates on you, he wears a mask. It's not so he doesn't get sick. It's so he doesn't share his germs with his patient.
Right. If you're open there, they don't want to infect you.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's number one. Number two, Hong Kong. I've spent a lot of time in Hong Kong. To be fair, it's been 10 years, so maybe things have changed. While I don't trust any numbers that come out of China, I kind of trust numbers that come out of Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, virtually everybody wears a mask. At the height of the pandemic, before they shut it down, Hong Kong had 3 million people daily coming into that country, most of them from mainland China. During that period, 6 people in Hong Kong died because they all wear masks. And let's say, okay, the Hong Kong people they're a division of China, they're lying. The Czech Republic, early on, they all wore masks. They just did. And they had the lowest rate of infection of any European country because they wore a mask. Japan, Korea, Singapore. Singapore, basically the main problems they had in Singapore were with the migrant workers who were stuck in these very crowded quarters. You take them out of the equation, and Singapore didn't have a problem. They all wore masks. New Zealand is basically COVID-free. They haven't had a case in how long?
I have the data, but I haven't looked.
But it's been a while. I mean, zero. Not flatten the curve. No need to talk about it. Okay, because they wore masks, and I understand the whole look. It's my constitutional right. I don't have to wear a mask if I don't want to, which is true. It's my constitutional right to fart in public. I don't, because you just don't, okay?
Well, and I wouldn't get into a constitutional lawyer argument because I'm not qualified to do that, but every right we have is subject to limitations. One of the ones I really love, which was with freedom of speech, I think it came from Oliver Wendell Holmes, was the freedom of speech does not allow you to scream fire in a crowded theater.
Sure.
And before we were setting up, we were talking about things like the libel laws and so forth. Your freedom ends where you infringe on other people's freedom. And it's a little bit shady here, but your freedom not to wear a mask interferes with my health. That's an issue. And that's why people are talking about it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be one.
But we have this tribalism in the country now, and I guess we always have had it. But everybody, nobody wants to compromise. It's my way or the highway. And me personally, I think everybody should wear a mask if you're indoors. My employer requires that we wear masks indoors. We were never shut down. We've never slowed down. Business is better than ever. And we've had no cases. We had one guy who tested positive, but that was because his wife is a nursing home RN. And her job was to give, she treated patients with COVID-19, gave them their respiratory exercises. Okay, she was going to get it. She did. So did he. Stayed home 2 weeks. Life is good. But if you wear a mask, every statistic says you're going to be fine. Now, or not fine, but you're going to flatten the curve. Which, by the way, if you heard that in the background, this is July 3rd, folks, in western St. Charles County. We are not in Beirut. But people love to shoot fireworks. And in fact, July 3rd and 4th, fireworks are legal in the city of Lake St. Louis. So, once again, if you hear all the booming in the background, we are not broadcasting from the Beirut Sheraton. We're broadcasting